Welcome to Forum 360. Thank you for joining us on our global outlook with a local view. This is Leslie Unger, your host today. I don't know about you, but until recently, I thought about house fires the same way I used to think about polio or the measles. They were mostly something from the past. I thought we were kind of vaccinated against them. First, friends lost their home in the Ventura fires, then closer to home in Copley and Cleveland. Now it wasn't something that happened in the past or to others. It happened present day and to people that I know. One of my guests today doesn't want to be thought of as a victim. So the show today is about rising from the ashes, not about being buried figuratively by the weight of them. Danielle Valentine woke up one night in time to save her 3 kids and 2 dogs. Together with our fire department expert, we will look at the human side of a fire with Lieutenant Robert Langston, Public Information Officer for the Akron Fire Department, who will help us understand what to do the day before, that day, and the days after. I would like to welcome my guests to Forum 360. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Danielle, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
So it's one July evening. It is life as usual, whatever usual is in a house with 3 kids. And the next day, Sunday, your world has completely changed. First, can you take us through the realization that something was happening?
Well, the night, it was about 2 in the morning, and I happened to sleep on the couch that night, which is very rare for me to be doing that. And I had a foster baby downstairs who wasn't feeling well. My son was in the basement, wasn't feeling well, so I slept on the couch, and I had a daughter upstairs. And I actually woke up to a bang, and I looked up, and there's a big bay window, and I saw orange, and my first thought was, did somebody just hit the pole out front? Like those were lights, and I could feel heat immediately. And when they tell you, like in emergency, your body takes over, you're not there, I got up, calm as can be, went upstairs, got my daughter Morgan down the steps, and got her out through the garage. You don't follow your fire safety plans usually either when this is happening. It was like first thought, I got her out the garage, went downstairs, grabbed my son, got him upstairs, and then grabbed the baby, and then I had to go back in for the 2 dogs. As soon as I came down those steps to grab the dogs is when it broke through the window upstairs. So it broke through our living room window, came and instantly filled living room, kitchen, and dining room. Thank God I had already come down the steps with the first child, so we were on the lower level. We all got out of the property before the smoke detectors even went. My keys were right there in my purse. The first thing I thought was just to yell at the kids to get in the truck because we had the dogs. And we had 2 of our dogs, and we had 2 dogs that we were caring for at the time. So I was like, 4 dogs, there's no way. We just loaded the truck, and as soon as I got in the truck, the only thing I could think of, I couldn't dial 911, I just laid on my horn. And I knew that some neighbor would do something, and I'm blessed that my neighbor's actually a firefighter, and he was out quick, firefighter, they were called and everything. So I remember every detail to that point, but I can't explain why I was calm, how I got everybody out, it went very smooth, even though we were seeing this break through this window upstairs.
So from your perspective, Lieutenant, what is the first thing that you would want listeners and viewers to know when they think fire?
Well, I think our guest here pretty much really gave a good example of someone who didn't panic, who had an idea of how to get out of the house as quickly as possible, of course, with her children. And she had time to get the pets too, which doesn't always happen. But really, preparation for an event like this really starts way before it ever happens, if it ever happens. She mentioned something about an escape plan. That is something that we promote to the general public to have an escape plan in case there's a fire. At least have 2 ways out of your house. Make sure your smoke detectors and CO detectors are functioning. And just preparation, prevention is really the biggest deterrent to fires, is prevention. And there's so many different things that you can do in terms of prevention. No unattended cooking, which is one of the big causes of fires that we respond to. Making sure your electrical outlets are not overloaded, and not using extension cords, overloading those things. Just very simple, basic things that we can do as homeowners and occupants to minimize, if not eliminate, the causes of the common fires that we go to.
So I wanted to ask you that. Danielle's fire was not someone's fault. The Cleveland fire I mentioned was the result of workmen that had left combustible rags in a home. And then my friends in Ventura, it was the Ventura fires. But what would you say is the #1 source of house fires in our communities?
In our communities, it would be unattended cooking.
Really?
That is one huge cause of a lot of the fires that we go on, believe it or not. Just people turning things on, leaving it on the stovetop, and falling asleep, or thinking that they could leave the house and make it back in time, or thinking that they turned it off and leave the house, and when they actually didn't do that.
Wow.
So we respond to a lot of those types of fires. But of course, there's many other things that could cause fires in the home too. Electrical problems, possibly. But it's the avoidable things. It's the things that we can directly affect and control that we want to pay attention to.
Yeah, sure. Danielle, I remember that you said the first day after the fire was spent on things like getting prescriptions that, for your family that you have to go through, you have to explain why you need a refill. What do you do first?
So that you don't even think of those things. Like all of my children are on very important prescriptions. I had a foster child of Summit County in my house that was on a prescription, plus she's not my child. So I had to go through all the protocols. So the first thing I had to do legally is contact CSB, let them know what happened, let them know the child is safe. You then, thank goodness, my mother lives in the community, so I was able to go. Kids went to her house. They get you into a hotel right away, but then you're like, wait, medications, food, all of that. You can't just call. 2 of my children are on controlled substances for ADD. You can't just get a refill of that. Yeah. It was Sunday. They went without their medication that day because I couldn't get it. The prescription couldn't be filled without a doctor. The doctor then has to sometimes see them again to be able to write it. The biggest help at that point was Red Cross, actually. Red Cross, once we got into the hotel, Red Cross reached out to us, and they actually called the doctors. I had already called them, but when they called, they were able to get them to respond quicker to me. And we were able to get a 3-day supply until doctors could write the scripts appropriately. But you do go into panic of that. Carter cannot go without his medication. He's on a blood pressure medicine also. And so it was like everything we were going through to not have that on top of it. And then, you then start figuring out where you're going to live, and, the phone calls of what they're doing to your house and all of that start.
So, Lieutenant, let me ask you, with all of the downside of a fire, do you see a good side of human nature?
Well, the main source of good human nature that I see is the response from our firefighters. I am very fortunate to work for a department where all of the firefighters, male and female, are very dedicated to providing safety, to mitigating these types of incidences. We get very good training to do so, and these men and women are very happy to use that training in any incident that we may have to go on. How
do you, or any firefighter, how do you unsee things that you've seen?
You don't. It's more of developing the ability to process what you see, determine how you can help, do what you can to help, and then the things that you can't do, defer those things to other agencies, other individuals who can complete the process. She mentioned something about Red Cross, and that was one of the main things that I was going to highlight when it comes to helping the victims of house fires. Red Cross is very instrumental in providing temporary shelter, providing medication, notifying next of kin, just whatever that they do as an organization to try to help these individuals, because the road back to normalcy can sometimes be a very long one.
Well, you know, that's an interesting word, because my next question, I was going to ask you, you know, during and after, if we are after, I guess we are after the pandemic, we kept hearing the term the new normal. But what does a new normal look like after you've lost everything? And how long does it take? Do you ever get there?
I don't think you do. So I thought that, you know, once some things were replaced, we're in temporary housing now, a beautiful temporary house that fits us all, we're good. Once that foster baby went home and we got 2 new ones and the kids started school, I kept saying, this will make it more normal. This will make it, like they're in school now, you know, this will make, now it's like we have a building permit, we're gonna start building, and there's no normal, there's the next step that's gonna happen, but we're never gonna have all of those things back. When you replace them, you can't replace, even the technology, you're not even replacing with the same technology because life has changed, technology has changed. Nothing I've been able to replace has been even the same. My children are different. I'm different. The way we perceive things, the way that we handle things and walk life are different because not just of the fire, but also what happened after. Like, we were so blessed. Our community poured out. I mean, we had things dropped off at our house, meals. I mean, we had so much support that even our love for the community, my hope in humanity was even restored to a certain extent. Like, people showed up that I hadn't seen in 20 years to pick up rubbish and to look for things. And so I know, like, when you had mentioned that you can't unsee things, that night, once I got out of the property, once my kids were in the car, that's when you lose it. And firefighters were right there. Like, we had several different teams there. I think Norton and Brimfield and like several. One team was completely just put on us, like, to make sure we were okay. And you can't, then you start falling apart, and the things that they walked us through and how they handled things were just, I will never forgive that. Like, I will never forget what that experience was like, and then the community after. So I don't think we'll ever know what normal is, because normal's now 100% changed.
And do you ever run into, say, someone that perhaps you met 20 years ago through a house fire? Do you ever meet them again 10 or 20 years later and see what their life has gone on to be like? Is there a new normal?
I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to reconnect with a family or someone who's gone through a house fire that I was involved in. Probably more on the EMS side. Mm-hmm. I tend to see more people that I've treated or transported. But just for them to express that they're doing okay, that they have moved forward from that point, and that their lives are meaningful to whatever degree that they were able to make it from that point on. I have experienced that, and it is one of the unspoken rewards, I guess, of the job. But just to know that you had a hand in getting them back to normal, getting them back going in the direction that they either once were or have adjusted to at that point.
Today, our topic is really rising from the ashes after a home fire. Our guests are Danielle Valentine, who experienced that this summer, and Lieutenant Robert Langston from the Akron Fire Department. Lieutenant, I want to ask you, several years ago, I don't even know how long ago, I don't even know how I ended up on Main Street in the middle of some fire competition, some firefighters competition, and there were like people that had come, firefighters had come from different States or whatever, and they had like built like this 2-story house, and you had to like go up it, and you know, it really showed how physically demanding. Like, I don't think about that, you know, whether it's the hoses or whether it's getting people. How physical is being a firefighter?
It's a very physical job. In fact, I'm hearing more and more each day that it's a young man's job or a young person's job, because you absolutely have the strength. You have to have the strength and the energy and the vitality that young people have, and then learn how to channel that in the right direction to maximize that strength and energy in the different tasks that we have to perform as firefighters. We carry heavy things, we drag heavy things. Sometimes we have to breach doors and walls and ceilings. Just a variety of different firefighter skills and techniques and tasks that we do have to perform on a fire ground. That can be very taxing on the body, very demanding physically. And so one of the things that we promote in general is stay in good shape. The department provides workout equipment. Every single station has a workout room or area with some of the latest exercise equipment, weights and things like that, to try to promote good health and really building up their stamina to be able to do that. Because sometimes we are on the scene for a few hours just working.
But the real burning question is, does any unit still have a Dalmatian?
Unfortunately, we do not.
You do not. Okay, that's the burning question. You know,
we-
everyone
yeah.
wants to know,
Yeah.
is there still a Dalmatian? Danielle, I want to ask you, you know, people say they're only things, and, you know, everyone got out and anything else can be replaced. They say that, but how important are things and the memory of those things?
So I hate when somebody says that to me. Something I've learned in this, and I use it now for anyone going through anything, is if somebody is going through trauma, don't say, "Are you okay?" Don't say, "Are you okay?" They're not okay, and they can't answer that. When people would come to me and say, "I'm glad you guys are good, but it's just things," I appreciate the thoughtfulness, but it was very upsetting, because it really isn't the things that I miss. It's the memories that the things reminded me of. So those are irreplaceable. You know, my children are now teenagers. I don't have their first handprints, their Christmas ornaments, their art projects, you know, all of that stuff that, yeah, it's a thing. No, that can't be replaced. I can't get any of that stuff back. But the older we get and the more we go through, we unfortunately do forget things. And when you look through a photo album, you remember that event. You remember being there. You remember that experience. I have lost that chance to trigger those memories, those things I forgot. And thank goodness, a lot of my photos after Olivia was like 6 are digital. But I don't have anything of her childhood. Her baby years, I have no baby pictures except for what the grandparents had and things like that. So yes, they're replaceable, but they're not in a sense too.
So let me ask each one of you, words of encouragement. You know, you've already shown so much strength, you're stronger than, you know, blah, 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 blah. What would you want someone to say to you or to someone after a tragedy, really any kind of a tragedy? And have you found that anything resonates or is more helpful to say? Because I think we're at a loss also as to what do we say. Is there anything that you found that was helpful, or is it just a dinner and a hug?
So I think this goes back to those 5 love languages. So my love language is acts of service. So I think during the trauma, you can say anything. I don't want you to say anything. It's hard when people ask what happened, or are you okay, or can I get you anything? I don't even know what I need at this point. Like, I couldn't tell. Somebody just calling and saying, "Hey, dinner will be there at 6. I'm here," was priceless. Me not having, somebody showed up one day with a bunch of socks, and I was like, you're right, the kids need socks. Thank you. Like, those things were priceless. I don't know if that's because of my love of services, like that was what I needed. But the words, you're so numb and you're so not aware of even what's going on at that point. You're just trying to check boxes to get through it, that even encouragement wasn't supportive at that time, at least for me.
And have you found any words that seem to resonate with people more than any other words?
Well, in a fire situation, I have to agree with everything that she said, because words just don't do the situation justice. But I do agree with the acts of kindness. And again, not only saying that I'm here to support you, whatever it is that you need, I will try to get it for you, or I will, if I can't, I will make sure that somebody else can. But not just saying those things, but actually following through with those things. And even though as a fire department we tend to focus more on life safety, it being our #1 priority, as opposed to saving material things, or as we said, things that can be replaced. But with that, we try very hard to just connect with the victims at that time, to make sure Red Cross is there, make sure next of kin has been notified. Just anything that we can do as a department, in addition to taking care of the fire, anything that we can do, or anyone that we can connect them with, to make sure that their basic needs are taken care of. Actually doing that, and them seeing us do that, gives them a little bit of hope, gives them at least the satisfaction at the time that someone is really trying to help me here.
Do you want to show this brochure?
So one of the things that the Akron Fire Department developed some years back, it's called After the Smoke Clears. It's a guide to recovery. And in this little brochure, it gives a quick recovery checklist, some of the things that you've mentioned, such as medications, important documents, how to replace those if you lost those in the fire, contacting your insurance company, just different things, logistical things like that would be involved with getting your lives back in order to some degree. And this brochure kind of gives you kind of an outline of how you can do that. They also mention the Red Cross and some other civic organizations and other individuals that a person could contact in order to help out.
Okay,
So
good to know.
That's just one of the things that we could provide for them at that time.
Okay. In the remaining minutes, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to ask for 2 or 3 word answers. Just, I think our viewers and our listeners like to get to know our guests, the personal side, in addition to, the reason that they're here. Danielle, after the year you've had, what gives you hope?
I would go back to the community reaching out. I have hope that we're going to be okay.
Lieutenant, what is one thing that you find helpful to be able to deal with this fires and people and homeless people as a result on a day-to-day basis? What is one thing that you find helpful?
Just love for people. That has been my motivation since I began this career.
Danielle, as you're rebuilding, what is something different that you will do as you're rebuilding your house?
You mean like in structure-wise rebuilding?
Any which way wise. What is something different than 20 years ago or so?
That home we had owned for 14 years, and I had redone everything in it. But I had done it to my children. I'm now rebuilding a home for teenagers, and the thought of grandkids was what my thought, so walk-in closets and things like that. We're trying to find some positive in rebuilding it.
And Lieutenant, let me ask you, what is one thing that you would advise people, whether they're moving in a house or whether they're building a house, what is one thing that perhaps people should look at or do that we don't?
It goes back to prevention. Whether it's a new house, whether it's a house that existed for years, whatever the situation, just take the steps that are needed to prevent these incidences. And there's many things that you can do, just common sense things to prevent fires.
There's one thing I'd love to add to that. So probably the greatest thing I learned in this that I'd heard 100 times is keep doors shut, keep doors shut, keep doors shut. Carter's door was shut, and it gave me the time to get to him, and no smoke was in his room when I pulled him out. Also, pull them shut after you leave, if you remember, because we would have been able to save things if I would have done that, because most of our stuff down there was smoke damage. So that was a huge thing I want people to really, really do. Keep the door shut when those babies are sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Northeast Ohio, so my last question in one word or two is something you like about Northeast Ohio. Go.
Well, I just learned today there's a cherry blossom trail that I need to go find.
Okay, a cherry blossom trail. One thing you like about Northeast Ohio.
I'm a big golfer, so Northeast Ohio has a lot of nice golf courses.
Okay. Many of us feel that at times we are tested by life's challenges. Quotes about being tested by fire go as far back as the Bible, but few of us are literally tested by fire in our lifetime. Danielle Valentine and her family's lives were turned upside down. Imagine every time you reach for something, you're looking for a new normalcy. With our guest Danielle and Lieutenant Robert Langston, we looked at what to do the day of, the day after, and into the future. I'm Leslie Unger. Thank you for joining Forum 360. Today we talked about rising from the ashes.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.